Okay, so today in this video we're going to go over converting linear forms. This is going to connect the dots from a couple different activities we had where we didn't really get to finish some concepts on the last couple assignments. So try to connect these dots that we learned. We're going to start off by looking at this presentation I made and breaking down the basics of the linear forms. Right? So what we're looking at here is a picture above Chicago from the Sears Tower. I think now it's called the Willis Tower. And this is one of the tallest buildings in the world. Okay, so you could get up there and you're hundreds of buildings, hundreds of floors above all the other skyscrapers, right? This is the tallest skyscraper of all the skyscrapers in Chicago. And, you can see that these people are looking at some kind of straight line on this line. So I thought like this might be a cool thing to get your attention. So I'll use this as a thumbnail for the video that we make today. All right, and as we get in here, we're thinking about how standard form, slope-intercept form, and point-slope form are the forms that we're going to learn about in this video. Okay, slope-intercept form, the y equals mx plus b. We've used that a lot. Okay, and then ax plus by. This one over here, we got some problems to deal with there on that one. And point-slope form is another one that we need to know about. So I'm going to show you guys a few different graphic organizers, and I kind of invite you to take a screenshot, maybe of your favorite one, and make sure that you memorize it. Okay, use the one that kind of appeals to you the most, right? So this one looks like maybe like a Monopoly little card, and so it has the slope-intercept form being the y equals mx plus b, and the definition of standard form again and point-slope form right now. And then make sure that you understand that m is the slope. Okay, only slope-intercept and point-slope form have the slope written there. Notice that in standard form there's no m. All right, so you got to figure that out on your own. Now we take a look at this one we got right here. And this is just another way of organizing the material. So I kind of invite you to make your own organizer. We've written these down on our notebooks a few times, but you really want to memorize these because it's going to be on a test eventually. So it's already time to make flashcards and make sure that you memorize these forms. So I'm just giving you different ideas of how you might want to approach it. All right. Then as we get in here, we see a more like a textbook version of it, right? And so in this case, we're looking at slope-intercept. It's useful for graphing since the slope and the y-intercept are readily visible. And that's a good point, right? Because I know exactly where it's going to go through. So it's kind of easier to graph this one a lot of times, right? But the point-slope form allows you to use any point to draw the graph quickly. Whereas slope-intercept has to give you the y-intercept as the only point that we use, right? And so these two forms are related, right? And this one helps us do it for any point, right? And the difference is that this one only is for the y-intercept. When we look at standard form, one thing that we're going to talk about a lot is how the a, b, and c are not supposed to be fractions or decimals. If they were, then it's not technically in standard form. Okay, so a standard form equation would be of the form a times x plus by, and we have some kind of value like that right there. Okay. So the next thing that we got is another organizer. Again, is giving you some specific examples. Right, so you can see here, the slope in this one would be 2/3, right, for m. What do you think the b would be? Check your understanding right now. Which value here from this green one is the b? All right, the b would be 5. All right, now for point-slope form, again, we know the slope of the line, and we would have to know the coordinates of a point we wanted to pass through. So in this case, notice that the x-coordinate, right, would be a +6, and the y-coordinate would be a +9, okay? And I want you guys to focus on how, like, this y right here is negative. Notice that? And how here inside of the point is positive, right? Notice the same thing for the x. The x1 is negative, but over here is positive. So that means that we're always going to have opposite signs in this kind of a situation here with the point-slope form. All right? And again, standard form is just like this, where we got a number times the x, and then a number times y, and it's equal to another whole number. All right? That's what we got our standard form. Now this graphic organizer is interesting because it lets you see kind of the different forms of linear equations, and it kind of gives you like a little, what's the word, it's a flow chart basically, right, of what it is that's important, right? So the coefficients that we have to be constant in standard form, right? And notice that they put the plus c equals 0. We probably would have that equal to c here, so that's kind of incorrect in the way that we've been thinking about it. And then in this one, we got y equals mx plus b. So again, the m is the slope, the y is the intercept, and there's an example. Okay, you got the point-slope form, where we have the idea of what this would be, right? So we could think about maybe this example, what point are we talking about, right? Okay, in this case, the slope, the lower the size of that marker, In this case, the slope would be 3, right? Because we can see right here, that is my slope. That's the slope, it's 3. All right? But now to get my coordinates, my x1 and y1, right, what are the points that have to be on this line? Well, like I told you, the number that goes in there with x, all right, we have to change the sign of that one, and that gives us our x coordinate of the point. And then I look at the y, the number that goes with y, I change the sign of that, and that gives me the y coordinate of the point. Okay, so usually I kind of teach you guys these ones one at a time, and in this video we're going to try to do like all 3 at the same time, making sure that we go over the details and look at them back and forth. So right here I kind of would invite you to, pause the video and start connecting the dots here, like which form do you think is which, okay? Like you pick it, right, draw like a little line, so connect slope-intercept form. Which one do I connect that to? Well, so what I had in mind was then that you guys could just connect it, right? We could say, okay, slope-intercept form is this one. That's a slope-intercept form, right? Y equals mx plus b. And you can look for a couple other ones. Like I see this one down here is also y equals mx plus b, right? So, connect all the dots. Make your decision. You can take a little screenshot and just think about it. We could number all of these if you wanted. You know what I mean? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Maybe this could be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and you could just put them into which basket you think they go into, right? So, pause the video, think about this, all right? Check your understanding. The more you try to focus on the details, the more when I'm talking about some little detail, you'll understand it better, right? So we get in here. And like I told you, I'm going to reveal the answers, so please try to check your answers, all right? Check your understanding. And here we go. All right, again, that's what I meant, right? So please check your understanding if you can again, because 3, 2, 1, here's the answers, all right? So you want to make sure you understand this, okay? Point slope form is really only this one right here, where we have the minus, the y minus something, and we got this parentheses, all right? We got 2 standard form equations, right? This one has 5 times x plus 3 times y equals 12. So I'm hoping you guys get the idea of what's happening here. So now that we've done these basics, we're going to jump into our assignment, okay, and start understanding what it was that we really have to do, okay? In this problem, it wants us to write the slope-intercept form of this line, right? And so to do that, I have to understand what that form even means, right? We want to underline everything in the problem that's important. So the first thing is write the slope-intercept form of the equation, okay? And slope-intercept form, we know that means y equals mx plus b, okay? One thing that you got to kind of do when you walk in here is you got to recognize that this is in point-slope form. Okay, if you don't recognize the forms by looking at them, that might be because you're too unfamiliar with them. So this means you got to stare at them a little more and experiment, maybe using Desmos and stuff, and it'll make more sense. So I want this to look like y equals mx plus b. So that means that I want to have the y by itself on the left and everything else on the right. Okay, so one thing that I would do then is I would subtract 5 from both sides of this equation. Okay, and what that gives me is y on the left, and on the right side I got negative 2 times x minus 3 and all of that, but the minus 5 has to go at the end. Okay, so I was a little worried today that some of you guys might try to combine that minus 5 with that minus 2. Don't do that. And we don't want to combine it with that parentheses either because it can't get inside of the parentheses yet. We want to get rid of those before we combine them. So the next step that we get to is called the distributive property. Okay, and to do the distributive property, we're going to take our number, that's our coefficient, this negative 2, and I have to multiply it not just times x, but I have to also multiply it times negative 3. All right? And today I was talking about that with everybody in class, saying like, well, sometimes I ask my students how to multiply a certain value, and they might not know. Like if I tell them to do 5 times 17, and they're like, oh, I need a calculator. Okay, but then I realized that you guys should know about mental math using the distributive property, right? Like I can do 5 times 17 in my head, right? Watch me, right? 5 times 10 is 50, and 5 times 7 is 35. Okay, and if I add those up, I get 85. And if you go do 5 times 17, I mean, it's the same thing. You'll get 85 also. That is called the distributive property, this thing that we're doing. Okay, the distributive property. And I would say that what I've done here is that I've distributed the 5. Okay, I distributed the 5. You got me? So In this case, I want to distribute the negative 2, right? I want to make sure the negative 2 gets multiplied by everything over here, right? So let's do that. Negative 2 times x. Well, a negative times a positive makes a negative. So I have negative 2x, right? And we just leave it as negative 2x. But now negative 2 times negative 3, a negative times a negative makes a positive. So that's positive 6. And then that is minus 5. Okay, now we're almost done, right? Because it's going to look like y equals mx plus b. I just have to simplify that plus 6 and then minus 5 part. Okay, and we know positive 6 minus 5 is 1. So this is how we would have our answer for number 1 here. And again, it's written in slope-intercept form, so that's really it. It really took us about maybe 3 steps if you want to count them all like that, but in a way it was really only 2 steps. And then the third step was just kind of simplifying, right? So let's go ahead and try number 2. And then at some point I'm going to get into Desmos to try to make a little bit more intuitive sense of this, because we haven't graphed anything for like a few days now, so I want to get back into that. Okay, if at any point you feel like you got it, then definitely you should move on and try the problem and check to see if you're thinking right. And then when you go over the details, you'll be able to see that you got it or not, okay? And understand where you went wrong, perhaps, all right? So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And I got y equals that, so now I just copy what I have, and we're just adding 3 to it. All right, so again, it doesn't go inside the parentheses yet. We got to get rid of that. And the way I get rid of the parentheses is by distributing the 2. So, again, that's a negative 2. So I got negative 2x, and then I have to do negative 2 times positive 2. But a positive times a negative is always a negative, so that's negative 4. And then I got plus 3 here. So the total, or rather the final form that we want to do, the fully simplified form would be negative 2x minus 1. Okay, so we're just converting between forms, okay? Again, we're writing it like y equals mx plus b because it told us to, and we started off in point-slope form. Okay, so it's kind of essential that you guys are able to go back and forth between forms so you're not too confused about it. So we'll do number 3. And then little by little, we got to bring in some that will have fractions. So step 1, take away 1 from both sides. We get y equals 4 times x plus 3 minus 1. We're going to distribute the 4, so I got 4 times x and 4 times 3. Okay, so that gives me 4x, and 4 times 3 is 12. 12 minus 1. So this last step will be 4x plus 11. Okay, you can see we're going a little faster now, right? They don't have to take forever. So number 4 here. In this case, what do I want to move, right? Try to check your understanding right now. What am I going to do to both sides of this equation? Am I going to add or subtract, divide? What am I doing? I'll be subtracting, okay? Because again, the whole point is that I want slope-intercept form, and that's when I make it look like y equals mx plus b. So I just want to move everything else to the other side. So I'm going to move that negative 4. So I'm going to move that 4 to the other side. And so now what we have here is negative 2x minus 1, and then it's all minus 4. Okay, so at this point, we distribute the 2, then negative 2. So negative 2 times x, but we also have negative 2 times negative 1. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And then we got a negative times a negative, so that gives me positive 2. And then we got minus 4 at the end. So in this case, we'll have to end up with negative 2x minus 2. Okay, so just the basic mechanics. Like I said, we're moving the numbers around the page. We're moving the letters around the page. We're not really digging into any of the relationships behind them. We're doing algebra, okay, and we're practicing how to do that because that's what we do when we're doing this. It's a mechanical process of moving some things to the other side, okay? There's other more abstract things going on behind the scenes, okay? But the thing that we are practicing specifically, I hope you guys can focus, is how to move these letters around into the way we want them, all right? So again, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, right? I got the slope, right? And then I got the intercept. All right, this is point slope form, again, that we're looking at, okay? The more times that you label it and think about it, the easier it'll be for you guys to remember it. All right, so I highly recommend you guys mark up your papers as much as possible and just label things. Okay, so if I add 5 to both sides, right, that'll help us kind of begin this process. We'll go fix that 5. And adding 5 means, again, that I have to do it to the whole side, right? So again, because that's a negative is why I added 5. Okay? Then we got 8 times x minus 4. And again, it's the whole right side plus 5. And now we distribute the 8. So we get 8x minus 32. So we get 8 times x is 8x. That's just how we have to leave it. All right, but a positive times a negative is a negative, and 8 times 4 is 32. So we got 32 plus 5. Okay, and if we combine this to get our last step, we'll go ahead and leave this as 8x minus 27. All right, we're making good progress. We're about 20 minutes into this video, and we're almost done with the first page, and we've done a little review of everything. Okay, so number 6 I think might be a good one for you guys to do on your own, because after this they get harder. So number 7, I didn't give you guys the answers today, so maybe I'll at least give you guys the answers for number 6. All right, you should know how to do this though. All right, but you should get 5x minus 4. All right, but I won't give you every step. All right, you guys try it on your own and at least try to see where you get. All right, make a mistake even will be better than nothing. Okay, so here we're going to start getting into the fractions. And after these, we'll move on to the last form of standard form, and the video will be done. So in this case, I take the 5 from both sides again, right? I want to get the y by itself because it tells me to get slope-intercept form. So I'll put the y right here, and we got our negative 7/4 x, and that's, all in parentheses, x minus 4. Okay, and all of that minus 5, right? So now what we want to do is we want to multiply that by everything else, right? I want to distribute the negative 7/4, right? For the first part, that's not too hard, right? Doing negative 7/4 times x is just writing them next to each other, right? Okay, but negative 7/4 times negative 4, what does that mean? Okay, first, a negative times a negative is a positive, so write the positive, okay? But to do a number times a fraction, right? That just means to multiply it that many times, right? So I'm going to do this number times the top. So 4 times 7 is 28. Okay? And then it's all minus 5. I'm going to put the 5 in red so you guys can kind of see where it came from. All right? That was right there, so we have to include it. Okay? So there's a couple of steps that we got to do to simplify now, right? The negative 7/4 x will stay like that. But we want to simplify the 28 over 4. And that's just equal to positive 7. You might also be able to notice that, look, the 4 and the negative 4 canceled out, but because it's like a negative times a negative, we still have to have a positive 7, right? Okay, and then we get minus 5. So the final answer will be negative 7/4 x. All right, but 7 minus 5 is 2. All right, so our final answer, right, the slope-intercept form of the equation will be y equals negative 7/4 x plus 2. All right, and I'm just writing it over again because I ran out of space. So I might have been able to try to put it here, but it would have got too cluttered. All right, so let's go ahead and keep your work in a straight line too. All right, so now we're moving at a decent pace. You guys should be able to try number 8 on your own. This one will give you a little bit of trouble. Let's see if there's another one after this. There's not. All right, so this is a good one to have for home, okay? Again, the fractions will give you a little bit of trouble, but I'm going to move on to the next topic now, okay? So just leave that one for now. Let's try number 9. All right. I'll give you guys the answer. At least you guys see what you should have got. All right, so try to get there. You guys will puzzle through it. I don't want to do another one of that example, so just good luck working on number 8 on your own. Okay, we got number 9 now. And so again, we always read the problem to make sure you're doing something that makes sense for the problem you're doing. In this case, it's slope-intercept form, right? So I want to write this in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, so I see that the one thing that's messing this up is this plus 2x over here. So if I could throw that over there, we'd kind of be done, right? And so we've been noticing is when you move something, some expression that you're adding to the other side, it's going to change signs. If it's something I'm adding or subtracting, if I go to the other side, it'll now be doing the opposite, right? So this 2x was getting added, right? So if I do my algebra, now look, right? We moved it to the other side, and now it's negative, right? Hope you guys can see what I mean. Like right here, it's positive, and right here, it's negative, right? So the next thing that I have to do is just really rearrange those, okay? Because it's basically almost already done. So today I told all my students how it would be nice if everybody didn't get too confused by this, that a minus b is exactly the same thing as negative b plus a. All right, it's the same meaning. You'll always get the same value. Those are equal. All right, so that means that all I have to do is just kind of switch these around, right? Negative 2x because it's negative, but that 6 is positive, right? So it's still positive, so we write just plus 6. And this would be done, okay? And why is it done? Because it's in y equals mx plus b form, right? What's my m? Negative 2. What's the b? 6, right? Okay, so we'll do the next one. Number 10. Okay, and we're going to finally get to a fraction I think that we'll have to reduce here maybe. So let's... Oh, maybe not. All right, so here what we're going to get on this case is we're going to subtract 6x from both sides. So we get minus 6x. Now I got negative y equals negative 8 minus 6x. Well, then in class today we talked about how we could change a negative y into a positive y, because I don't want that. We want y equals mx plus b, right? Not negative y equals mx plus b. So you can either multiply both sides by negative 1 or divide it by negative 1, right? Because that's just going to change the sign. So it doesn't really matter what you do. If you divide it by negative 1, it's the same thing as multiplying by a negative 1. All that means is change the sign, okay? So negative y, negative divided by a negative makes a positive, see? Okay, so that's why it works this way. The same thing with the other ones, right? To divide by negative 1 means change the sign of everything on the top of this fraction. So the negative 8 becomes an 8, and the negative 6 becomes a positive 6x, right? This is almost done, except you see it's just flipped around, right? So if I want to make this exactly in y equals mx plus b form, I'll just switch it around the other way. So now number 10 is done too. Now looking at number 11, I'm going to take a look at this to see if there's sums that I should maybe save for you guys. All right, so we only got... Alright, so let's just keep going on to 11, should be alright. I will save you guys a couple ones. Alright, so in this example, we finally have a division step that's going to happen at the end. Notice that this time the y isn't by itself. There's another number that's kind of in our way. That's going to add an extra step. So now what I want to do is subtract 3x from both sides, okay? This is very similar to what we did before. Okay, and I'm going to say I can't write negative 14 minus 3x right now. I could do that if I want, okay? But it's also the same as if I write negative 3x minus 14, because everything's already negative anyway, okay? So those are all the same. So I could go change this to be negative 3x minus 14, okay? And if you don't believe me like that, you go look it up, like minus a minus b. Is that the same thing as minus b minus a? I mean... Look it up. I mean, you'll see what I mean. Like, it's all good. So, what we're doing here is basically just getting ready to divide, okay? Because we would be done. So I have to divide both sides by negative 7, okay? By negative 7. The reason why I'm picking negative 7 is because there is a negative 7 here, and I want to cancel that out, and that will make sure that we're left with y, okay? Some teachers call this a big 1. Right, because it's just 7 divided by 7. It's just anything divided by itself is 1. So, just an invisible 1 now, we can get rid of it. Okay, so we just got y. But this thing, we're going to break this by understanding that we had to change the sign of everything, right? Because we know when you divide by a negative number, we're going to change the signs, right? So the first thing I could do is make sure that we got 3x plus 14, and then it's all over 7. All right, so that's the first thing we did. We got rid of the negatives. Got that? Now those are gone. Okay? Now I do have to split this up a little bit. So we're going to split this into 2 fractions. All right, we're going to get 3x over 7 plus 14 over 7. Okay? And some of you guys are going to be really stuck at this and be like, wait, what? How is this the answer? So now I'm going to show you guys what the answer looks like. And let's try to figure out why we're basically already done. All right? The answer is this. Why is what we're looking at already that? Okay, well, this is the same thing like I told you. When you do a number times a fraction, you do the number times the top. So 3/7 times x is the same thing as 3x over 7. Those are equal. So we have, in this case, 3 over 7x plus 2. Okay? And that's our final example that I just wrote up here earlier to show you guys my point. Okay? All we did is really just take that x and put it on the side. Okay? And 14 divided by 7 is 2 because 2 times 7 is 14. Okay? That is the slope-intercept form. I want you guys to notice that last step of division was kind of annoying because we got to split up 2 fractions and then we got to divide. Okay? But it's something that you have to be able to handle. So we'll do a couple more and then we got to cut this video off before it ends up being a half-hour long. So in this case, again, we want to get the y by itself, right? So I could do it this way. Take 3x from both sides. All right? How am I going to write that here? Am I going to write 8 minus 3x or minus 3x plus 8? I'm going to write minus 3x plus 8 because it's going to save us a step later on. Okay? The next thing is now divide both sides by -2. All right? Dividing both sides by -2, well, like I said, change the sign of everything on the top, and then we'll divide it by 2. I think that's an easy way to do it. All right? So now, you see, I got rid of that negative. How did I get rid of the negative on bottom? I got rid of it by changing the sign of everything on top. Okay, that's what that means. But now, I just take this and split this up into 2 fractions. Okay? So I got 3x over 2 minus 8 over 2. And I'm just doing this extra step so you guys can see it's there. Okay, but I know some of you guys are going to know how to get straight here. All right, 8 divided by 2 is 4, right? So the slope-intercept form of the equation is y equals 3/2 x minus 4. Okay. So we're going to get 13, and then after this it's probably about time to cut off the video and let you guys work on your homework. Alright, so in this one, okay, again, I'm going to go ahead. I can show you guys another trick. In this case, I feel like I can't help it, alright? I want to move the y to the other side because then that's going to make it positive. And if I move the 2 over there, it's going to be negative, right? So in my head, this is the way I see it. 5x minus 2 equals y. But that's the same thing as y equals 5x minus 2. So we're already done, right? That's the equation. Like I'm just telling you the way I see it, right? Because I know that I can move things around and all that stuff. It's kind of important that I give you guys my standpoint, all right? Because every now and then, you guys might be like, oh, okay, I get what he's thinking, right? So keep that in mind, all right? Maybe we could do one more last one. All right, this one will be great, all right? Nice big numbers. I'm sure this is one that you guys were afraid of. So here we have to take 14x from both sides. Okay, and I'm not going to try any little funny tricks here because it doesn't seem like it's going to save me any time, right? Am I going to write negative 18 minus 14x, or am I going to write negative 14x minus 18? I'm going to write negative 14x minus 18, all right? And the reason why we did that was now I could be done in one step by dividing both sides by 3, right? By dividing both sides by 3, I now have y on the left, and I'm almost done. Just remember, I got to split up this thing into 2 fractions, okay? So this time I got negative 14x over 3 minus 18 over 3. Remember, it's just breaking up that fraction, okay? And then we'll go this way, and we'll turn that into negative 14 over 3x, okay? That can't be reduced at all, so we leave that one alone. But this next one can be reduced, right? 18 divided by 3 is 6, right? So we would write our equation as y equals negative 14 over 3 x minus 6. This feels like a high school math problem that you guys should be able to do. And this feels exactly like a test question that I'm telling you will be on a test. All right? This is the kind of thing you guys got to be able to handle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps really just to rewrite it. Now I think I might have a couple questions at the end about turning into standard form. So I might as well hit one of those really quick. All right, so let's try this one. The video's just barely over a half hour, and I hate when they go over even 20 minutes, so I'm sorry about it, guys, but at least you got every detail here, yeah? Alright, so in this case, what I want to do is I want to have my standard form, right? And this is not standard form. This is slope-intercept form, right? So this is slope-intercept form, and I want to write it in standard form. And again, standard form was the one where we have a times x plus b times y equals c, okay? And so the problem is that I want the a and the x and the y on the same side, right? Notice I got the x and y on different sides. So what I'm going to do is move that negative 5x to the other side, but that means I'd have to make it positive, right? So I'm telling you what I'm going to do strategically, okay? And now I'm going to do it algebraically, which means just do the algebra, okay? So I want to add 5x to both sides. If I add 5x to both sides, then it'll get rid of this one. And that's the whole purpose. That's why I wanted that. So here we got 5x plus y, because I'm adding those together. Okay, and on the left, the only thing that's left is 6. Again, why did this 5x go away? Why is there nothing there? Because negative 5x plus 5x is 0. Okay? That's why we did that. That's how I move it to the other side, is by choosing the opposite version of it, right? And so this problem's already done. All right, that's our slope-intercept form. Get it? Right? Our A is 5. Our C is 6. What's the B, though? All right? The A is 5, like I said, but what's the B? The B is an invisible 1. All right, so don't forget that those invisible numbers are something you guys got to know about. All right, I'll get one last standard form problem, and I think this would be a great one to do. So we want to get that x to the other side, right? And this is a problem because we have a fraction in front of it, right? So, I mean, bear with me real quick, right? We could subtract the negative 2/5 x from here and go, okay, I'm going to take it away and move it to the other side because that's what we want, right? Standard form is where the x and y are on the same side. So this would be like negative 2/5 x plus y equals negative 3, okay? Then what would we do to make this equation standard form? Because in standard form, we have to have only integers, right? So that means that this should be next to x. We should just have a number times x, not a fraction, okay? Not a decimal, but just a number, okay? And we got to have a number in front of y also, okay? And, you know, this thing over here should also be a number, all right? So there's a couple ways to handle this, all right? One way is to solve it right now, is that I can multiply this whole equation by 5. Or basically, I can multiply both sides times 5, okay? So we usually do, if we're going to express that we're multiplying a whole side of an equation by something, all right? That's when we use parentheses, right? That's the whole point of parentheses. So if I'm going to say I got to do this side times 5, and I'm going to do that side times 5, okay? What was the purpose of this? We're going to get in there, okay? Now look, on the right, we just got a negative times a positive. So that's negative 15, not positive 15, right? Negative 15. But when we're looking over here on these other things that we got on the left side, we got to distribute again, right? If you remember what that means, I got to do the 5 times the negative 2/5 x, okay? But what's that mean? 5 times negative 2/5 x. Well, this is the reason why I chose the number 5 of all numbers to multiply. Because I know that this 5 is going to cancel out that 5. They're going to go away. And all that's going to be left is negative 2. Okay? Negative 2 what? Negative 2x. Okay? But I also got to do this times that one. Okay? So 5 times positive y is just 5y. Okay? So this would be how you do that standard form conversion. Alright? we'll be going over these in detail and reviewing, but this is just kind of like your first little pass through all the conversions. So definitely make sure you finish this up, write down any questions, any difficulties you have, but this should be enough to get you guys through the assignment, all right? Also, don't forget to get in your stuff about the cash out or crash out, okay? If you guys got anything that's incomplete in terms of your write-up, I'll go ahead and extend the deadline till midnight tonight, all right? But get that one done tomorrow. I will not be taking it, all right? Good luck, y'all.